Close your eyes for a second and picture the dream. You are on an empty coast road early in the morning. You press the pedal, and an engine somewhere behind your head howls up through the gears, the whole car tightening around you like it was poured from one piece of metal. People turn their heads as you pass. For about 30 seconds, you feel completely, ridiculously alive. That is the dream. And here is the thing almost nobody notices about it. Nowhere in that dream did you sign a $200,000 loan, or pay an insurance bill, or sit in a service waiting room. The dream was never the Ferrari. The dream was the feeling. And the feeling and the car turn out to cost wildly different amounts. So let me show you the real math. Start with what it actually costs to own the thing, because the sticker price is the smallest part of the story, and the part they show you is designed to hide the rest. Say you buy a Ferrari 488. Forget the purchase for a moment and just look at what it costs you every year simply to keep it in the garage. Insurance on a car like that runs somewhere between $7,000 and $10,000 a year. Once the warranty ends, maintenance runs $3,000 to $5,000 a year, and a single major service can be thousands on its own. Fuel, another $3,000 or so. And then the silent one, the big one, depreciation. A Ferrari like this can shed around $28,000 of value in a single year, especially early on. Add that up. Before you have driven it anywhere fun, before a single sunrise on the coast road, owning that car is costing you somewhere north of $38,000 a year. Every year. Just to have it sitting there. And over 5 years, the total cost of owning it, not even counting the price you paid to buy it, lands somewhere between $130,000 and $280,000. That is the real number, not the one on the window sticker, the one that quietly leaves your account month after month, whether you drive it or not. And here is the part that should really stop you. Most people who own cars like this drive them only a few thousand miles a year. They are paying $38,000 a year and more for a machine that spends almost all of its life parked, losing value while it sleeps. They did not buy a driving experience. They bought a very expensive, very beautiful object that sits in the dark and sends them bills. The dream was 30 seconds on an open road. What they actually purchased was 365 days of being responsible for a depreciating asset. And it is worth saying plainly what depreciation really is, because it is the cost nobody feels in the moment and everybody pays in the end. It is not a bill that arrives. It is value quietly evaporating out of the thing you own, whether you drive it or not. The car can be sitting perfectly still in a climate-controlled garage and still be losing tens of thousands of dollars a year, simply because time is passing and newer models exist. You cannot drive carefully enough to avoid it. You cannot maintain your way out of it. It is the price of holding the title, and it is the single biggest reason that the object and the experience cost such wildly different amounts. The person renting for a weekend pays for the joy. The owner pays for the joy and then keeps paying for the slow disappearance of their money long after the joy is gone. So now let us separate the two things that everybody glues together, the experience and the ownership, because the wealthy figured out a long time ago that you can have one without the other. You do not need to own the car to have the feeling. You just need access to it at the exact moments you actually want it. And the access costs a tiny fraction of the ownership. Let me give you the real menu. The first route is the simplest. You rent it. A Ferrari rents for somewhere around $1,000 to $3,000 for a full day. A 488 can be had for around $1,300 a day. So picture this. Twice a year, you rent the exact car you have been dreaming about, take it out on a perfect road for a weekend, feel every bit of that 30-second dream stretched across 2 days, and then you hand back the keys. No insurance bill arrives the next month. No depreciation. No service appointment. You had the entire experience, the best part, the only part you actually wanted, and you owe nothing afterward. The car becomes someone else's liability again the moment you walk away. The second route is even better if what you really want is the raw thrill, the part the road can never legally give you. You go to a supercar driving experience, the kind they run on real racetracks in places like Las Vegas. For a few $100s, you drive an actual Ferrari hard on a closed circuit, with a professional coach in the seat beside you, doing the speeds the car was actually built for, speeds you would never dare or be allowed to touch on a public road. You get the helmet, the laps, the onboard video, the genuine article. If you just want to ride shotgun while a pro drives it at the limit, that can cost under $100. This is the dream at its purest, and it costs less than a nice dinner out. And there is a third route, for the person who wants more than a weekend but still refuses to be owned by a car. Exotic car clubs and fractional programs let you pay a membership and rotate through a whole garage of supercars across the year. 1 month the Ferrari, another month something else entirely, all without ever holding the title, the depreciation, or the repair bills yourself. You get the variety that no single owner could ever afford, and you share the one cost that actually destroys wealth, the depreciation, across many members instead of carrying all of it alone. It is the same principle as the rental, just turned into a lifestyle. Access on repeat without the anchor of ownership. Put those together and the picture gets almost absurd. A couple of rental days and a track day a year gives you more genuine Ferrari experience than most actual owners get, and it costs you maybe $5,000 a year. Owning costs you $38,000 a year and up. Same feeling. Same engine, same head turning, same goosebumps. 1/8 of the cost, and you never once have to think about the word depreciation. You are not getting a watered-down version of the dream. In many ways, you are getting a purer one, because every time you touch the car, it is an event you chose, not a chore you are obligated to justify. So here is a question I would genuinely like you to answer in the comments. If you could drive your absolute dream car for one perfect weekend a year, with none of the bills, would that actually be enough for you, or is it really the owning you are after? Be honest with yourself. The answer tells you whether you want the experience or the identity, and those have very different price tags. And it is worth being honest about that word, identity, because that is what the car companies are really selling, and it is the most expensive thing in the showroom. The experience of driving the car lasts as long as you are driving it. The identity, the version of you that owns the Ferrari, the way you imagine other people seeing you, that is the part you are actually paying $38,000 a year to maintain. And it is a strange trade, because the people whose opinion you are buying barely think about you at all, while the bill is extremely real and arrives every single month. The wealthy tend to be quietly immune to this, not because they are better people, but because they have already learned, often the expensive way, that no object ever delivered the feeling of enough. So they buy the experience when they want it, skip the identity entirely, and keep the difference. Let me make this concrete for a normal person, because this is not just a billionaire's game. Imagine someone earning a good but ordinary income who has always wanted a Ferrari. The ownership path means stretching for a loan, carrying the insurance, sweating every parking lot, and watching the thing bleed value, all to drive it occasionally and nervously. The access path means twice a year they book the exact car, drive it somewhere beautiful with a huge grin and zero anxiety, spend perhaps $5,000 total, and quietly invest the 30+ thousand they did not burn. 10 years of that, and they have had a decade of dream drives and a portfolio worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The owner, 10 years in, has a worn-out depreciated car and a pile of receipts. Same dream. Two completely different lives on the other side of it. Now let me show you what happens to the difference, because this is where it stops being about cars at all. Take the roughly $33,000 a year you are not spending by accessing instead of owning. Invest it, year after year, at the market's long-run average of about 10%. In 20 years, that gap alone becomes over $2 million. And if you had taken the $280,000, you would have sunk into the car itself and invested that instead. It would grow to nearly $2 million in 20 years and close to $5 million in 30. So the real choice was never Ferrari or no Ferrari. The real choice was a depreciating object that drains you, or the same experience for a fraction of the cost plus a multi-million-dollar fortune. The wealthy did not skip the Ferrari. They just refused to let it own them. And this is the part that matters most because it reaches so far past cars. The exact same logic applies to almost every expensive dream you have ever been sold. The vacation home you would use 3 weeks a year. The boat that mostly sits at the dock. The designer everything. In every single case, there are two completely different products hiding inside one shiny object. There is the experience, which is the thing you actually want and which you can almost always access cheaply and on demand. And there is the ownership, which is the expensive, depreciating, time-consuming liability that mostly benefits everyone except you. The wealthy learn to buy the first and rent or skip the second. That single habit, repeated across a lifetime of temptations, is a huge part of how they stay wealthy while looking like they are living the dream. Because they are living the dream, they just refuse to buy the bill that usually comes attached to it. So look again at that empty coast road and the engine howling up through the gears. That was always the dream. Not the loan, not the insurance, not the depreciation, not the years of being quietly drained by a car that sleeps in a garage. Just the feeling. And that feeling has a price tag a lot closer to one good weekend than to a $200,000 mistake. The only thing standing between most people and the drive of their life was the belief that they had to own the whole car to feel it. You don't, you never did. And now you know the math. If this changed how you think about one expensive thing you have been telling yourself you can't have, there are a lot more of these. The real math behind the life you actually want. Subscribe, and let's keep decoding it together.